Welcome to SoulPod Studio. We're not your average social network. We're a community of professionals, enthusiasts, and students taking sustainability to the next level. Join us on our journey and get inspired by Earth heroes just like you.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of SoulPod Studio. I'm Amy Farrell, based in the Bay Area of California, and I'm so excited to have a fellow Bay Area resident join me today on our first live, virtually recorded podcast. I met her, had the pleasure of meeting her at the Earth Day Festival in April of 2023, where she was actually presenting on her podcast, The Climate Career Kit. Aishani Garg is a junior at Design Tech High School, which is a charter school based in Redwood City, California, a very unique charter school that focuses both on the design thinking approach developed at Stanford University and also incorporates some sustainability into their curriculum. So Aishani, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
So excited to have you here today. So let's just start out in the very beginning. The Climate Career Kit, which is focused on discussing, I guess, different types of careers that touch climate change. You're so passionate about climate and climate change that you developed this for high school students. Can we just back up and can you tell me, how you got inspired to be involved in climate in the first place?
I would say that I started getting into it over the pandemic. Everything was weird. Everything was changing. We experienced a lot of fires. A lot of the direct effects of climate change were felt by a lot of us in the Bay Area. And so that kind of inspired me to think about what could change, because all we were taught about was, you have to recycle and turn off the lights. But at some point, that's not going to work anymore. So I was really curious to figure out how I could make that into something that I could do in my career. But I'm not a particularly STEM focused person. I don't want to be an engineer. So that's what inspired me to kind of find out what exists out there. And I would say that going into high school, my teachers, my environmental science teacher particularly, she inspired me a lot because she taught me about everything that there is to do with climate change in the environment and everything that happens in the world to do with the environment and how humans are kind of affecting everything. And so that was kind of the first step that gave me the initial knowledge. And then I started to go out and try to find out more things that I could do. So the first thing I did was I applied for the YCO program in San Mateo.
Oh, wait, back up. Wait, what does that stand for? Because I know I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Right?
The Youth Climate Ambassador Program.
That's right. So that's through the county, right?
Yeah, it's through the county, and they're actually accepting applications for cohort 5. So if you're a high schooler, you should definitely go apply. Yeah. And it was amazing because they teach you so much about climate justice, climate action, everything that you can do in high school. And they give you the tools to have a project of your own that you implement in your community. And so it really empowered me to take action and made me feel like I had the tools to really do something.
And I guess on that program, is it several weeks? And how involved is it, in case there are students listening who want to go ahead and in our county and get involved?
It goes from around October to May, and there's a bi-weekly meeting. So it's every other Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. So it's pretty late. So after any sports practices and stuff. And it's just a Zoom meeting, and you have opportunities to learn in the first hour. They're really good about education. And then they also give you the last hour to do the assignments that they assign you. And so they guide you through the process of implementing several different projects. And you also get a $500 stipend at the end in May.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, that's really good for anybody in San Mateo County here in California. That could be something to look at and consider applying for. And for SoulPods members or those outside of California and other areas, you might check to see if your state or local government has something similar. So that really got you focused, I guess, on learning more on what you can do to mitigate some of the climate change impacts. What would you say then led you to actually launch the podcast? Because I have a podcast. It's a lot of work. I mean, you're in high school right now. You're in the midst of thinking about colleges and applications. And, so to launch a podcast and go through all the work and finding people to interview and then finding the time to do the interviews, like what inspired you to do this for other people, to help other people?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, like I'm not a very STEM focused person. And so I had the misconception that in order to work in climate in your future career, you have to be an engineer, you have to work in tech, or you have to do something in that area. And I saw that that was not true because I was meeting so many different people that were working in sustainability but weren't in those jobs. They did marketing, they were fashion designers, they were lawyers, they were like literally everything else. And so I saw that there was kind of a gap in the education that we were getting about climate change specifically. And I wanted to kind of fill that gap and show people, especially people in high school who have to make the decision right now, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and show them that, there are other possibilities. And so I wanted to find a way to educate high schoolers in that way. And I thought that my first way was I was going to interview people, and then I was going to kind of share that knowledge with high schoolers, like publicly, like somehow. And my dad kind of said, oh, wait, why don't you start a podcast? Why don't you like spread the knowledge that way so that you can get the information yourself, but also be sharing it to people at the same time? And you could take that and do something else with it later, but why don't you just start that now? So that's what happened.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's great that your dad had that idea. So when did you actually launch the podcast?
I launched the podcast in January of this year. And
okay,
it's been
and how
running...
many have you done?
Yes,
so
I've
far?
done 22 episodes. I kind of took a little break, but there are 22 that you can go listen to from so many people in different areas. And yeah.
That's amazing. And did you find that people are pretty approachable? I mean, how do you, I know you met people through the program in San Mateo County, but how do you identify people? And I looked at your website. It looks like you've actually grouped the different interviews into categories. So if someone's interested in sustainable fashion or clean tech, you've kind of segmented it. How do you find people to talk on those topics?
I often message people on LinkedIn. And I know that sounds weird, but it's my mom who taught me to first do that. I was like, I want to find people. So you have a
LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
My mom was like, I'll help you set it up. And then you just have to go find people and you have to message them and you have to say, this is what I'm trying to do. And I was surprised. I got so many responses.
That's amazing.
They just kind of piled up all at the same time. I had so many recorded podcasts that I had to edit at one point. And it was amazing how many people were just willing to help me, like how willing they were to like share what they were doing to help other high schoolers because they know how important it is for like the next generation to get into it.
Yes.
And yeah, I really appreciated that.
That's incredible that you were able to, leverage LinkedIn, which technically is more of a professional networking platform, but, it's open to everyone. So, and then that people responded. What would be some of the most surprising interviews? I mean, where people caught you off guard?
Yeah. In terms of like guests that I was able to get, I would say that I got someone from the U.S. Department of Energy, and it seems like it's like a real governmental organization. So that was like a pretty exciting thing for me. I also got an ex-NASA scientist who now works in different, weather data simulations and stuff. So that was cool. In terms of just like actual job to do with sustainability, I had a fashion designer. And so it was cool to see how they take sustainability into account when doing their job. And it may not seem like it's like a crucial part of it, but just each person like trying to make it a little more sustainable really does make a difference.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, that's something we talk a lot about on the podcast and all the work we do at SoulPods is every little step counts, even if it feels like a small action, it can actually collectively lead to big change. I want to ask about where you see this going. I mean, now you've been at it for several months. You've got your website and, social media as well. So is it something you want to continue doing? Are you thinking about going more in person, or where are you going to go with this?
I want to for sure continue educating and getting interviews with different professionals. But more than anything, I want to expand my reach, and I want to make sure it reaches more people. I want to, especially in the Bay Area, like go to different high schools and like present about it. And I want to make sure that it gets heard because I feel very strongly about it. And I know that people, if they don't think they're interested in something, they won't go look for it. So I have a feeling that the people that I need to reach are people that I need to go find.
So, Aishani, you said that you're on LinkedIn. I know you have a website. Outside of going in person to the different high schools, say in the Bay Area, I mean, we know most high school students are avid, users of social media. So how do you see using those platforms to get the word out?
We have an Instagram right now, and I have someone who's helping me like make reels of my different episodes and posting them. They haven't gotten as much reach as we would like, but we just want to continue doing that. And also me recording other outside videos, so hopefully they get into those channels. And also we were thinking about possibly starting a TikTok and putting those same videos on there just to kind of get videos out there and make sure they reach people. Just see what happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned you have someone helping you.
Yeah.
Are you finding other, students at DTech are interested in helping you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, just a few, but that's all you need.
That's true. You only need a couple to get that going. Now, turning to DTech itself, because, the school sits on the Oracle campus. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty interesting charter school. Can you just tell me a little bit about how sustainability is incorporated into the curriculum there? Because I understand that they're one of the few schools that actually includes the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN SDGs, in the curriculum.
Yeah, for sure. First off, I would say that the first kind of thing that was sustainable at our school is actually the building itself. It was designed by the previous students. So when they were first building the building, and it was funded by Oracle in 2015, I want to say, it was designed by students. And it is designed to be a zero emissions building. So we don't have running AC. We don't have those things. We do have solar panels. And our building's completely glass, so it's natural heating and cooling. So they really do take into account like trying to be sustainable. Also, another really important thing at DTech is design thinking. So using design thinking, they incorporate sustainability into our curriculum. And so the first class that you take in 9th grade is just general design thinking. And then as you move into 10th grade, you start thinking about how can I use this process to help my community by being more sustainable. So we look at the 17 sustainable development goals that were set by the UN, and you choose one and you choose like a target. And then you try to make some change either at the school or in the community to try to make it more sustainable, try to advance it a little bit. And then I'm currently in a class called Innovation Diploma. So that's kind of the highest one that you can get to, and it's a special diploma that our school offers. And it's essentially the same thing. You choose a UN Sustainable Development Goal, and you design a project, and you implement it. And you have to present it to a group of people, and you have to defend it. And you have to say, like, this is what I did, and this is what impact I had. And then they choose whether or not to give you a diploma. It's an extra diploma you graduate with. So I think it's pretty cool.
That's incredible. So are you also measuring the impact that you've had, and what kind of tools are you using to capture that or measure that impact?
I'm still in like the development process of my project, but how it's going, I would say that I can measure it in a variety of different ways. I think one way I'll measure it is kind of through survey data, which is a pretty common way. And another way I would say is through like social media interaction. So I'm planning on having like a social media for my project. So we'll see how the interaction there goes.
That's great. I love to hear that DTech is actually getting students to think about not just the impact, but how you measure that. Because without the measurability or some way to see how it affects the community, you don't know if your project actually works, if it's actually affecting change. So that's so cool. I guess in terms of where you see yourself going for the future, a big question, because here you are just thinking about colleges, but I know you also are really involved in the UN, Model UN at school. So do you see like diplomacy or you said you're not a STEM person, but clearly you're leveraging tech with your podcast. So, do you have any ideas about what the future might hold?
So generally kind of what I want to do, I think, is to go into some sort of, I would say, environmental policy career. And that today kind of means a lot of things. So I don't know if that means that I'll be a lawyer. I don't know if that means that I'll work in government or even work for like a private company, but just something where I can interact with people, use my diplomacy skills. I love talking to people and kind of helping people and companies be more sustainable. It's kind of just what I want to do.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that someone in high school is thinking about that now. And clearly you've met so many potential mentors, through your podcast that you have a lot of people out there you could reach out to for more information. All right. So let me ask you the final question, which is a little bit creative. We ask everyone who joins SoulPod Studio, our podcast, this question. If you could have a sustainability superpower, what would it be and why?
I've actually thought about this a lot. I would say that I want to be able to inspire people to pursue like climate action or make sustainable change. Like even if it's a small one in their lives, like I just want to inspire people through like communication specifically to just make a small change.
That's amazing. And you already are doing it actually. So now we just need to amplify it by teaching more people about your podcast. So I want to mention that you can listen to all your podcasts, right, at theclimatecareerkit.com or follow you on, you said Instagram. So, and maybe TikTok in the future. And certainly if you're interested in getting an interview on Aishani's podcast, you can reach out to her in LinkedIn. Or even, I guess, reach out on your website, right? You actually have the ability
I do.
there. So we'll definitely include all this information in the show notes, but we're so excited that you could join us. Thank you for everything you're doing for the planet. And I hope you continue doing what you're doing and getting the word out to high school students.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
SoulPod Studio is made possible by listeners like you. Join the free SoulPods platform to become a part of our virtual community of changemakers. Links to our social media, website, and platform can be found below in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to rate and review our podcast. Thank you for listening and for your support.